just like not realizing that like without like the direct exposure of like, oh, we're gonna like take these circuits and then we're gonna put them together in this way, and then we're gonna use this software to make this thing move. I didn't really know that was like an option. We were originally going down a path that wasn't as well thought out, and we like were able to like bring it back and be like, no. And between the mechanical design done by our engineering department and like the features of Navigator, we made something that was very cool. If people are already comfortable with the mechanical, they can become comfortable with the controls after they see like, oh, this when I do this in the software, the machine does this.
Welcome to the Theater Our Life podcast. Today, Alex Panek is joining us to talk about automation and the Metropolitan Opera House. Alex is a Local 1 IATSE member and current head of automation at the Metropolitan Opera in New York. He received his bachelor degree in technical production at Boston University and subsequently attended UNC School of the Arts, receiving a master's degree in stage automation. Prior to the Met, Alex worked at TAIT Towers as control integrator, working on a variety of projects from concert touring to theme parks. Hi, Alex. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm very excited to talk to you today.
Glad to hear
it. Yeah, always a pleasure to talk technical, if you ask me. But So, were you a theater kid, or how do you end up here?
Wasn't super a theater kid. Like I built scenery and stuff when I was in high school, and I use that term scenery very loosely, and I use built very loosely as well. And I sort of got out of it. I started my undergraduate career actually at UMass Amherst as an engineering student, a mechanical engineering student. And after like an 8 a.m. like thermodynamics class, I decided that I hated that, and I started trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life after that. And then I ended up transferring into the theater department there, and started building scenery again, and learned some basic welding skills and things like that, and ended up transferring to Boston University. My family's from outside of Boston, so it was a little bit closer, and sort of like took off from there. I didn't really like know a lot about automation until I like started working with Boston University used to have a resident theater company, the Huntington Theater Company, they've since sort of like diverged paths a little bit. But they used to do a lot of like they would do like a summer musical and stuff like that, and that was always heavily automated. So I started to like creep my way in there, and then after undergrad, I went directly to UNC School of the Arts, and started actually as a technical director because I kind of wanted to like maintain the like overall like production aspect of things, and ended up getting an internship at TAIT Towers, where I ended up in their it wasn't called controls integration at the time, it was called something else. But I ended up doing a lot of that work and being like, oh, this is what I want to do. Like, this is super interesting to me. And I ended up graduating with a degree in stage automation.
Two things.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever heard one person say that thermodynamics is fun.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. But I was just like, I can't do this. Like, this is so far beyond me.
But at the end of the day, you ended up doing mechanical engineering.
Yeah. It's a weird sort of roundabout way to have gotten there, and I think that speaks a lot about like who I am as a person. Like I need like a tangible thing to work on in order to uh, like drive myself to learn more about how that needs to work, right? So like, yeah, it's a it's definitely it's definitely sort of full circle, um, just without like the stamps and the pay and everything.
Still somewhat of the liability, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's funny because I have a friend who's a mechanical engineer, and more often than not, I go to, hey, what do you think about this material or using this like this and that? He's like, at this point, you're way more of a mechanical engineer than I am because you use it on a daily basis, and I don't. So for whatever that's worth.
That is funny. I do have I went to school at School of the Arts. I went to a school with somebody who did um, get a bachelor's degree in engineering, and he ended up working for an engineering company after school, and I worked with him on some projects, and he's just like, yeah, we're gonna like tech screw all these plates onto some stuff, and I was like, that cannot possibly be the solution. And he's like, no, it checks out. I'm just like, all right, you're the guy. All right.
That's funny. So it was really, that's interesting, through your internships that you really found the path to what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I always find like for me at least, like I become much more invested in like school was never like the most investing thing for me. Like getting like doing the work, right, was sort of what uh, drove me a lot more than like classroom stuff and all of that. So like and like when I was an intern at TAIT, like there was we did a bunch of other stuff. Like we kind of like ran the gamut of like their different departments and stuff like that. I definitely spent 3 weeks like screwing magnets into the sides of decks and stuff like that, which did make my eyes want to bleed. Um, but yeah, I just like not realizing that like without like the direct exposure of like, oh, we're gonna like take these circuits and then we're gonna put them together in this way and then we're gonna use this software to make this thing move. I didn't really know that was like an option. And it's kind of still what I do here, right? We design a lot of our own equipment and stuff like that, so I kind of still do that sort of arch, right?
Sounds like a fun path to follow.
Yeah, for sure.
Very, as you said at the beginning, very hands-on projects and person. So you've worked a little bit with theaters, shops, and then in one of the biggest theaters. What's the difference between working in a smaller theater, a big theater, and then that compared to the shops, which I guess you guys have your own shops as well? So
yeah, we do. We have like a carpentry construction shop, and then we have an electrical construction shop, and then my shop sort of out that way is where we kind of prep machinery and we'll do like electrical projects and stuff like that. I would say the biggest thing I think between like here and like and some of the smaller theaters that I've worked at is like here we're doing we have five shows in the building at any given time, and we're rotating through them pretty constantly. So our day generally starts with a setup and then subsequent rehearsal of a show in the morning / afternoon. Then we change over into the evening show, which is not the same as the rehearsal you just did. So there's like a 4 5 hour block where you're taking down the show you just rehearsed, putting it off to the side and setting up a whole new opera. And then we have a second crew that comes in at night, and they come in and change us back into mostly change us back into the morning's rehearsal. And we do that Monday through Friday, and then Saturday is a 2-show day. So we're doing 2 shows in a day. Sunday we sometimes do shows, but not all the time. In like regional theater, you don't do any of that, right? You're doing a show, it goes into your space. If you have multiple spaces, that's cool. But I feel like most don't. And then you tack and rehearse that show, run it, and then you take it down and then you do the next one. So you're like, it's a lot like the overlap is a lot less between like repertory opera and like a regional theater space. And we're also like my department too will work on things for the next season. Right now we're a lot of the work we've been doing in the past couple of months is for a show that we don't even open here until next September. And then the difference between us and like the shops is we're our own client, I guess. Like it's kind of like we're both like the people producing the work, and we're also the ones who have to maintain it and use it every day and everything else. There's not a real handover, right? Like there no one's like selling us a thing and we can just be like, nope, come back and make fix. We kind of do that all here too.
To an extent, I guess it makes it more efficient. You know what you want, you design for it and your space, and then you just fab it, tech it, fix it.
Yeah, in a way, like we do job out a lot of like the scenery elements and stuff like that at this point, even some of the machinery. But we're like heavily involved in the design and like the technical design process with those various shops that we work with. And so we either between myself and we have what we call production and engineering department, which is our technical design department. We sort of like review all of the outsourced work and be like, no, this isn't going to work operationally. This isn't going to work because of physics, or this isn't, or this does work. This is a really great idea, and like do more of that or and stuff like that. But
so. Can you share any of the cool toys you have? Like, tell us about any of the cool things you've designed or currently have or use. Do you have any favorites?
It's an interesting one. Like some of the more like interesting stuff that we've done is we've sort of revamped a bunch of, and I will never be an advocate of like hydraulics. I want to be very clear about that. They're horrible. No one should ever do them. It should always be the last answer. But from a controls design perspective, it there's so much stuff to do. There's like so much sequencing and things you have to do. And usually it makes like a very nice looking cabinet. And so we've done a few things like that. Like we retooled our ring cycle, which was a monster several years ago. And
the one with Lepage, you were there?
Yeah. We in 2018, right? 18. I think we remounted it, and we actually redid all of the whole control system to run on Navigator rather than the. Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was that was like a multi-year project. That was a crazy. Just to like revamp the control system for that was nuts. It was a tremendous amount of work. The other thing, though, the one thing that we did recently was that I think is probably the coolest, like visually the most interesting show that I've done here so far. Was last season we did a new production of Die Zauberflöte, which was essentially like this like cube truss structure that suspended this like big 5,000-pound platform that we kind of rolled around the space. And we did that all with we actually rented winches. We didn't have anything in stock that we could that would do the line pull. And it was just a very cool like we were originally going down a path that wasn't as well thought out, and we like were able to like bring it back and be like no, and between the mechanical design done by our engineering department and like the features of Navigator, we made something that was very cool, and it was awesome. It was really cool. We're bringing it back next season, so
are there
people should come see it.
I know, like for people listening, the ring cycle, there's videos out there. I've geeked on them a few times, but for that second production, I don't know.
There is. I actually did another interview for that production in particular. It was me, myself, and then the soprano who plays the Queen of the Night, and there's a little bit of it moving in there, and I'm sure there's some video online on the YouTube or something like that of like the thing moving. I have some video too. But.
And about the cube as well?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So just this is all my curiosity, I'm sorry, but how long is one of those processes like to say, okay, we're going to do this 5,000 platform that it's going to fly and move, and it sounds like in 3-4 axes and whatnot. Okay, to have time to pitch the idea, process it, make mistakes, engineer all of it, get it right, get it on stage. How long is that process for you guys?
This one is a little different because we actually started it pre-pandemic and then had to pick it back up. So it was like there's like a year and a half long gap in there. But when we finally settled on electrically controlling the platform with 4 axes and all of that, we ended up designing it in, what do you think? Designing it over the summer. We ended up teching the thing together just for us, not with like any performers, not with any like lighting or anything like that. It was just for us to like program the motion. We did that in December. So we had like 3 months of like design, fabrication, procurement and fabrication, and then about a month of we had it set up for about a month to do like we have to rope everything and program, and then we brought it back for technical rehearsals, and we took it all down, brought it back in February, did technical rehearsals and subsequently like performer rehearsals, and then in March, I want to say, it opened and then closed in May. So it was
such a short run.
Yeah. We only do like 8 or 10 performances. Some shows we'll do a lot more of, but we're doing like 17 performances of Carmen over like the entire year. So
you're talking about at least 8 months of work for 8 shows.
Yeah, it's a, I wouldn't call it an economical solution for anything, but usually it's about a year of work. Some of the stuff is a little bit more bridged. Right now we're working on another new production, much simpler in scale, and we just contracted the shop to build it like a month ago. And we tech it in January. So that it's
Okay.
like that's more of like
Quicker turnaround.
a 3-4 month process. Yeah.
And now a note from our sponsor. The Theatre Art Life podcast is proud to be sponsored by Clearcom. Clearcom is the leader in voice communications for theatre and the performing arts. Call your cues with the simplicity and elegance of Clearcom Intercom solutions. You can find them at clearcom.com. Go check them out.
So, okay, we're talking about scale of the project, but you were also talking, if we talk about man hours, and like your shop is open and stage shop, your guys are working about 16 hours a day?
I mean, right now
not
it's a little
individually, but
well, most of my team does a day, so from 9 until 4:30 for us, and then after that, if they're on on a show, they'll run an evening show as well. So a lot of people, it is like a 12, 13 hour day, and it's intense for sure. Like the hours are definitely long. Right now we're a little slower. We don't have like a ton of like production, what we call production automation. We're sort of split up into different areas, so it's a little bit less intense right now. But when we're in like full swing, it's 8 or 9 a.m. till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
All day.
Yeah, it's an all day affair. Yeah.
And how many people do you have in the automation department?
So in production automation, we have 6 or 7 now. So for production automation for us is like custom effects for like that are like show specific, things that are like uninstalled and reinstalled and uninstalled kind of on a daily basis. We also have fly machinery, which is our rigging system. And although there's crossover between production automation and that because of old stuff and new stuff. And then but that's all mostly permanently installed or like spot rigging. And then we have what we call stage machinery, which is like our lifts and wagon system. Those two departments, fly machinery is like between 4 and 6 people, depending on how much work they have to do. And then stage machinery is like 2 or 3 people. Which is completely opposite to what you'd think. You'd think the people doing the biggest amount of lifting would have more people, but their stuff largely stays there. So
I bet it must be hard to keep qualified people constantly to have it your team up to par, or how's that challenge going?
It can be a challenge. I think we're probably at the since I started working here, I think we're at we probably have the most qualified team I've had since starting. And, I think where we're sort of lacking is on our like nighttime operations and stuff like that, like making sure that those people are set up for success from like a rigging and controls perspective. And you have to like kind of like ensure success in the daytime for them in a way. Yeah, I mean, we always need more people, and there's some, and quite honestly, people here are getting older, right? And they will be retiring at some point in the not too distant future.
So you mentioned at this point you have the most qualified crew you've had. What does it mean to be a qualified technician for you?
I feel like we've reached a point where we use Navigator as our house automation system for most things. There's some older stuff that we're at least beginning to like phase out, but I feel like where I don't have to be here all of the time, and people feel confident in their ability to solve a problem if they run into a problem. And I think we have a lot more people here now that are like, oh, I know I need to do this to make this, like I'm setting up a new machine. I know I need to do this, and this in order to get it running, or I'm having this problem. I now know I can solve it by checking these things, right?
So so it's a twofold question, I guess. Are this a question of attitude or a question of skills? And if it's only skills, are the skills that are acquired on the job, or do you hire them with a specific set of skills?
I think it's column A and B, right? I think we have people who are genuinely want to know more, and I think that's really important, right? The and it's not to say that we didn't have that, you know, 8, 9 years ago. I think that we did. We just have more of them now, and and so I think that's certainly a component. And then we do try to hire people who will like already know Navigator. For instance, one person we hired fairly recently, like he's just like, oh yeah, I know that. Like, and we were like, all right, you're totally in. And then some of the other people though didn't, but they uh, had like mechanical skill sets and stuff like that. And I feel like the jump from like mechanical to the controls is like, while it's kind of steep, it's not like you can like if people are already comfortable with the mechanical, they can become comfortable with the controls after they see like, oh, this when I do this in the software, the machine does this. And so I think a lot of that, most of our most of the stuff is like on the job type training, though, I would say.
So if I were to go and say, hey, I want to work for you, what would you kind of try to ask me, or what would you try to see?
Did you know Navigator? I usually ask people if they have any experience, with mechanical systems. Do they have any experience, like with wiring or control stuff? Do they like computers? Do they hate computers? If you hate computers, it's probably not for you. And sort of basic questions. Usually, I ask for a resume first and like see what people want to give up first, and kind of like quiz them on that a little bit. Like one person said they had done like a networking like infrastructure for a church or something like that. I was like, so like if I asked you to wire this room, you'd be totally fine with that? And they were just like, oh yeah, for sure. And I was like, okay, great. That's and like troubleshooting networking and stuff like that. Like we don't do a ton of down here, at least we don't do a ton of like CAD and design work. But we're also on the lookout for those people, because we do a little bit of like we draw our own like cable diagrams and stuff like that, and things like that. So that sort of stuff is always helpful. We're sort of like equal opportunity. Like what can you tell me about yourself that and does that like jive with our team and stuff like that?
That's interesting. Yeah, it's fun because we both went to the same school, which happened to have the one and only stage automation program. But then for everyone else out there, I guess it's how we started at the beginning, just doing internships and trying out things and seeing how they like.
Yeah, I think that it is. Like I got a lot out of the School of the Arts program, but I feel like it gave me a really good like foundation in like in the basics, if you, for lack of a better term. Like, all right, this is a motor and this is how a motor turns and stuff like that. And while I don't think that like that's unimportant, right? Um, you know, there's a difference between someone who's like, you know, an operator, um, than someone who is like, you know, can tell you how a, you know, three-phase motor works, from like a theory level. Um, but you know, yeah, I do feel like, you know, a lot of what I learned at School of the Arts was almost instantly supplemented by working somewhere.
That's cool. Yeah, you mentioned something we know with the operating during shows, which we've talked a lot about the automation job as more like on the design part and the integration part a little bit. And then at the end of the day, I think it's becoming, and I might be wrong, as automation becomes more popular, but not necessarily the background, like the theory, the implementation, the design, but we start to see more and more operators or programming people.
Programmers, yeah.
Yeah, programmers. Thank you. But more so, just what's becoming a little bit like board operators. I feel like they might be able to troubleshoot a cure too, but is
There's
like if is it someone that's able to say, oh, there's a problem in this part of the system. I'm gonna go check this wire or this motor or this machine or this part of the component or the system.
yeah, you know, I've for sure. I feel like, you know, we like most of the people that we have are people who would largely be classified as operators, right? Like, we try to use those people elsewhere to give them more experience, right? But most of the people are like, uh, you know, they can solve many of the problems themselves, but like if it's like if there's like a certain things, it's like, well, call Alex or call Coleman or call whom, like, you know, there's a smaller group of people who are the people who have the most experience with navigator and motor control and stuff like that. It's like, it's doing this thing. How do I make it not do that thing anymore? Or used to do this thing and now it's not. Um, and so, you know, I'd say most people fall into that category, and I think where we're at least, you know, we're at now is trying to like gently push people into that smaller group, like make them feel comfortable, give them more experience of like, all right, you've done this, you've used this machinery, you use the software. Now let's like walk you through how to like, all right, we have this problem. How are you going to fix that and stuff like that? So we try to do a bunch of that, but then there's also like people who are like we do have one, like technically we have one resident programmer. He uh, focuses mostly on like, you know, getting shows programmed and up and running, but also does a lot of like the back end, like optimization sort of stuff and the and integration work.
So would you like people to reach out to you if they want to work for you?
Uh,
Or
I would. At the moment I don't have a tremendous amount of work. But I'm. But we do have some larger projects that are hopefully going on this summer. So, um, I'm always interested in talking to people. That's for sure.
That's cool. So what would you say it's the favorite thing about your job?
When I left Tate, I a friend of mine said, "Man, aren't you going to be bored there?" And I said, "I don't know. It seems kind of interesting." And I have not had a boring day once. Um, I think I think that that's kind of what keeps me going a little bit. Is like, there's always we're always solving new problems. Sometimes it. Don't get me wrong. It's wildly stressful because the problem you have to solve is in the middle of a show and the thing's not working. But I think the sheer variety of things, like we don't have the same day sort of twice really. Like we don't really go morning into evening the same ever, and so there's quite a bit of variety there. And we do some interesting work, right? Like um, and um, it's always interesting to support the creative teams and stuff like that in there. And like, we wanted to do this. Okay, well, how are we going to do that? And then kind of take it from there. That's sort of my favorite parts of it.
And your least favorite part of the job or the industry?
The hours, and the getting that, like, 1 a.m. phone call being like, this hoist isn't working. Okay, what does that mean? And like, and that sort of stuff. I feel like it's almost a double-edged sword. We do so much variety of stuff, but at the same time, it's like it can get to be the point where it's way too much, right? And like you're, and the hours just kind of take over, which is undesirable. Over the pandemic, I think we all kind of learned that, like, I like being home, I like being with my partner and my cantankerous cat.
Yeah. Right. So if you would suggest someone to come over on the podcast, or you'd say it would be very cool to hear an interview with this person, who would it be?
Let me think off the top of my head. And I don't know who you've already interviewed and stuff like that. I would say Jim Shumway, if you haven't interviewed him. He's
he
flight
wrote
director.
The book on automation and performer flying automation.
Yeah, he's a brilliant and enthusiastic person. We worked together quite a bit when I worked at TAIT.
That's cool. Well, I'll track him down and say, hey, Alex Panek said you should come over. And I agree. I totally agree. He'd be a great interview. Well, thank you. Oh, one last thing. So if people actually want to reach out, and you said you want them to reach out for potential in the future, maybe, perhaps.
Yeah.
Do they just Google you?
I don't think I'm super. Well, I might be super Googleable. I'm not sure. But you're welcome to put my email down. My work email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will do. All right. Hey, thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Nope. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Theater at Life is a global media site for entertainment. Memberships start at only $38 per year. You can have unlimited access to our daily published articles, including entertainment news and the writings of active industry professionals, ensuring that you are always up to date on the global happenings in the world of entertainment. Become a part of the international entertainment community and join us now at www.theaterartlife.com.